a woman from Minya who became a legend for years, turning into a historical tale everyone loves to hear. A legend who left her mark on the British Army soldiers who could never forget what she did to them. Our story is about Zainab, the story of a woman worth 100 men from the heart of Minya. If you ever meet a Saidi who takes pride in being from Zainab's village, know that he is a hero and his ancestors were heroes too. This is because Zainab was a real historical figure who literally became a nightmare, haunting British soldiers in the dead of night. Zainab was born in Minya Governorate in a land full of bounty, hard work and honest livelihood. A simple peasant woman, like thousands of women in Upper Egypt, would wake up early to work the land and help her husband, returning at the end of the day carrying the burden of her home and children. Her land was next to the train tracks, and that train passed by every day, carrying the British occupation soldiers. Everyone hated them and knew they were occupying our country, but unfortunately, they acted like they owned the place. One day, the train stopped and an English soldier got off. He had a strange look in his eyes. He stared at Zainab for a long time and tried to force himself on her. He was certain that no one could hold him accountable for his actions, but Zainab ran and screamed. Her husband heard her and rushed over, axe in hand, to defend his wife and her honor, but the soldier pulled the gun from his pocket and shot him. The man fell right before her eyes. His blood spilled, and he died in literally seconds. In that moment, everything changed and a completely different Zainab was born. The Zainab who lost everything, the one who decided that her husband's blood would not be shed in vain. Zainab didn't sit there weeping or wailing, nor say, "I'm a woman, I can't do a thing," despite the British soldiers. Instead, she stood before her husband's body. She swore by God that she wouldn't bury him alone. She said he had to have 10 occupation soldiers with him. They had to be thrown beside him as a sacrifice for his soul. And so began the story no one could have imagined. Zainab started watching the train, memorizing its schedule, learning the soldiers' movements, and waiting for the right moment. She would lure those English soldiers, smile at them, talk to them, and put them at ease. Then, in a split second, she'd turn on them, finish them off, and bury them in the ground one after another. They would vanish at her hands without a trace. Naturally, the army began to sense that something wasn't right. Soldiers were disappearing in large numbers, and no one knew where they were going until the numbers grew too large. It wasn't just 10, as she had sworn. No, she went on until 29 soldiers, 29 men, vanished at the hands of a peasant woman. She had no army, nothing to defend herself with. All that drove her was her rage and her need for revenge, nothing more. When the secret came out, the British were livid. How could this happen? How could one woman undermine the prestige of an entire army like that? They arrested her, and instead of acknowledging her strength, they decided to take revenge in the most horrific way. They severed her limbs while she was still alive and tried to smear her story so that no one would attend her funeral or try to follow in her footsteps. But what they didn't understand was that stories like these never die. Actually, it's growing. Minya's people didn't stay silent. They rose for the cause, confronted the occupation, tore up the tracks by hand, and stopped the train. That day remained a landmark in their history, a day that proved this land has people who will defend it to their last breath. Since then, the name Zainab was no longer just an ordinary name, it became a symbol and a legendary tale. Now, the phrase Zainab's land is enough to be said to anyone who tries to belittle the women of Minya or Upper Egypt. They hail from the land of the martyr of honor, the great Lady Zainab.